quiet town where success is judged by what the eyes can see, one woman is about to challenge everything people believe. Maryan Ngozi, a woman in a wheelchair, building a life many thought she could never have. But as her light begins to shine, it awakens something dark. A man who once ruled the game, now threatened by her rise. What follows is not just a battle of business, but a battle of faith, of light against darkness. And when the storm finally comes, only one will stand.
But so our lives, they say our strength is all they see. They never ask what's underneath. She walks a road they said she'd lose, fighting battles they never choose. With every fall, she finds her way through the night, into the day, when the light refuses to.
In the quiet town of Embu, where red soil clung to every road and the hills stood like silent witnesses to people's struggles, success was something everyone desired, but few truly understood. In Embu, people believed success had a face. It looked strong. It looked perfect. And anything outside that image was quietly dismissed. At the edge of the town, where the noise of busy markets faded into calm silence, stood a modest home surrounded by a small compound of neatly swept earth. It was not the biggest house. It was not the most beautiful, but it carried something rare: peace. This was where Maryan Ngozi lived. Every morning, before the first rooster crowed, Maryan was already awake, not because she had to be, but because she had learned that life did not wait for anyone, especially not for someone like her. She sat on her bed for a moment, her hands resting gently on her lap. Then her eyes moved toward the wheelchair beside her. It had been part of her life for many years now, not by choice, but by circumstance. An accident long ago had taken away her ability to walk, and with it, many people believed in her future. But they were wrong. Maryan reached for the wheelchair and carefully lifted herself into it. The movement was slow, practiced, and filled with quiet strength. Not the strength people celebrated loudly, but the kind that showed up every single day. She rolled herself to the center of the room, paused, closed her eyes. "Dear Lord, thank you for waking me up today." Her voice was calm, steady, full of something deeper than words. "Use me today, even in my weakness. Let your strength be seen." There was no rush in her prayer, no performance. Just a conversation between a woman and her God. By the time the sun rose over Embu, Maryan was ready, not just physically, but spiritually. Her company stood not far from the center of town, a growing business that had quietly become one of the most trusted in the region. She dealt in packaging and supplies, simple things but essential ones. And because of her consistency, because of her honesty, people trusted her. Over 40 employees worked under her. 40 families depended on her decisions. 40 lives connected to her leadership. When Maryan arrived at the office that morning, the workers greeted her warmly. "Good morning, Madame Maryan." "Good morning," she replied with a bright smile. Unlike many bosses, she did not isolate herself in an office. She moved through the workspace in her wheelchair, greeting workers, checking progress, asking questions. "How is your mother now, Peter?" she asked one employee. "She's better, madam. Thank you for helping with the hospital bill," he replied, his voice filled with gratitude. Maryan smiled. That's good to hear. To her, business was not just about profit. It was about people. Customers loved her, not just because of her services, but because of how she treated them. She listened. She cared. She remembered names. If a customer's payment was delayed, she did not rush to embarrass them. Instead, she would say, "Let's find a way that works for both of us." And that is why, slowly, quiet, her business grew. But not everyone celebrated her success.
When the light refuses to bow, even darkness trembles now.
Across Embu, in a large, well-decorated office, sat a man whose name had once been enough to control the entire market, Okanayo. He was wealthy, powerful, respected, and feared. For years his business had dominated Embu without challenge, until Maryan Ngozi came. At first he ignored her. A woman in a wheelchair, running a company, he saw no threat. But over time, things began to change. Customers started shifting, orders reduced, profits dropped, and when he finally looked closely at what was happening, he saw her name everywhere. Maryan Ngozi. She is the one. Okanayo asked one afternoon, his voice low and controlled. Yes, sir, his assistant replied nervously. Most of the new clients prefer her, and even some of our old ones have moved. Okanayo leaned back slowly in his chair. His fingers tapped lightly on the table. Then he laughed, a dry, unsettling laugh. A woman in a wheelchair, he said quietly. ... is taking my business. The room fell silent. But beneath that silence, something dark began to grow. That evening, as the sun disappeared behind the hills of Embu, Okanayo sat alone in a dimly lit room. The air was heavy, uncomfortable, almost alive. Across from him sat a man whose face was hidden in shadow. She must be stopped, Okanayo said. His voice carried no doubt, no hesitation. The man in the shadows remained still for a moment, then spoke in a low, eerie tone. There are forces beyond what people see. Okanayo leaned forward slightly. I don't care what it takes, he said coldly. Just make sure she falls. Silence filled the room. Then the man nodded. That night, something shifted. Maryan woke suddenly, her heart racing, her breathing uneven. The room felt different, heavy, cold. She looked around. Everything appeared normal. But deep inside, she knew something was wrong. For a moment, fear tried to rise. But Maryan closed her eyes. Jesus, she whispered. The name left her lips softly, but with power. She placed her hand on her chest, steadying herself. In the name of Jesus, every spirit not from you, leave this place. The room fell silent. Then slowly, the heaviness began to lift. The air softened. The tension disappeared. Maryan opened her eyes. Her heart was still beating fast, but her spirit was calm. She did not fully understand what had just happened. But one thing was clear. This was not ordinary. She leaned back gently in her wheelchair and whispered, Lord, I don't know what this is. She paused. But I trust you. Outside, the night remained still. But in the unseen world, a battle had begun. Not of business, not of people, but of light and darkness. And in Embu, two forces had now collided.
No matter how the storm